The ocean's memory. Everything the ocean remembers. Every tide, every glimmer of light, every beating heart that ever lived in it. And hidden in its silent, out-of-the-way places, a glimmer of life appears. A cell, almost unaware, drifting around in the dark. It doesn't know yet that it's precious. It doesn't know that it's doomed. Because this will be the tale of a monster who never dies. At least, not the way the rest of us do. Pretend you are born, but not from a mother, from a miracle. You start out as a floating egg, undetectable to the human eye. Waiting for something, anything, to occur. Then it does. A spark, a separation of cells. A beat begins, the rhythm of life. You develop into a planula, a small larva that doesn't swim so much as rock back and forth in the current. You don't yet have a brain, not even a mouth. You're simply there. For most animals, this is the beginning of something magnificent, an adventure toward growth, toward maturity. But for you, the immortal jellyfish, Turritopsis dornii, each beginning already has its conclusion, and each conclusion conceals another beginning. You cling to a rock or an old shell and become a colony of polyps, little tubes with waving tentacles. You grow, you divide, you make copies of yourself. Your body is a democracy of cells, every one of them able to begin anew. And you rise. You release yourself from the rock, floating up as a clear bell. Sin jellyfish. Your body is smaller than a fingernail, but you live, alive and weightless. Childhood, the wonder of being new. The ocean at first is a playground. You're young, if such a term holds any meaning for you. The water shines with sunlight. You float with the currents, spinning among plankton and dust. Each moment is infinite because, in a technical sense, it is. You consume microscopic prey. You glow dimly under moonlight. You propel yourself not by volition but by beat. You're delicate, yes, but that delicacy is a sort of perfection. You're attached to the heartbeat of the sea. If you were able to think, if you were able to feel, you might have spoken, "This is sufficient, simply existing." But time is different when you can't die. Wonders become commonplace. The waves, which once stunned you, all sound the same now. The sea is lovely, yes, but it's endless. And the older you get, the more endlessness is nothing. Teenage, the burden of awareness. Nobody readies you for awareness. Somewhere in your body, if we can use the word, some sort of awareness sparks. You begin to feel patterns, hunger, threat, peace. You see other jellyfish. They bob and dip with you, flashing in the blue dusk. You float along together, a cloud of crystal bells, and then they're gone. One at a time, your friends are devoured, dismembered, or washed up on the beach. You live, always. That's your blessing. Your curse. You discover something horrific. You can reverse death. When you are hurt, starved, or aged, rather than die, your body goes back in time. Cells dissolve into stem cells. You revert back to being a polyp once more. Young, reborn, ready to begin again. Originally, it feels like a miracle. But after the 5th, the 10th, the 100th, it's beginning to feel like punishment. Because when you return, the world is not the same. The reef has shifted. The water's warmer. The creatures you knew are gone. And yet you are still there. Adulthood, the curse of the eternal. By now you've lived for centuries, perhaps longer. You've seen generations rise and fall. You've floated through shipwrecks, coral blooms, and oil spills. You've witnessed the ocean change hues, from sapphire to plastic gray. You've learned each current, each hideout, each shadow of the predators. And still, you're here. There's no aging, no rotting, only cycles. You live, you regress, you live once more. Humans refer to this as immortality, but what they fail to comprehend is, immortality doesn't imply living eternally. It implies never being done. You can't rest, you can't move on. You can only come back. And every time you come back, you lose something. A memory, an emotion, a part of yourself. Parenthood, the futility of legacy. Yes, jellyfish have children too. You float tiny eggs in the ocean, delicate bubbles of promise. Some develop, some don't. You never get to know them. You never even know they exist. But suppose, for the sake of the narrative, that you do. Let's say you could glance at your children and feel something. Hope, fear, perhaps even pride. You'd want better for them, to view a cleaner sea, to discover beauty in life free from the weight of eternity. But you'd also know the truth that they too are born with the same affliction. And the sea is not gentle. Predators abound, and time, while insignificant to you, is cruel to them. You see your line disappear, generation by generation, and yet you don't change. And you start to think, what's the use of leaving anything behind when you'll outlast everything? The isolation of the immortal. Eventually, though eventually is meaningless to you, even the ocean grows weary. You have watched continents change, temperatures fluctuate, species go extinct. The sea that used to sing lullabies now vibrates with engines and drills. The light filtering down is fainter, denser, and you've started your transformation again, not because you have to, but because you can't stop it. Your body contracts, your bell folds. You become once more that tiny, branching creature on a rock, a polyp. But something is different this time. You're not inquisitive, you're not fearful, you're just tired. Immortality, you see, is not absence from death. It's the absence of peace, the end that never comes. They say the immortal jellyfish jellyfish can live forever. But maybe forever isn't as absolute as it sounds, because the ocean changes, and sometimes change is a kind of death too. Maybe one day the water becomes too warm. Maybe pollution smothers your reef. Maybe a hungry turtle doesn't care about miracles. And just like that, you're gone. For good this time. No rebirth, no reset, just silence. And in that silence, peace. Epilogue. The ocean remembers. If the sea were to speak, it might recount your tale as a children's story of an animal who lived forever and discovered what it is to desire an end. For to live forever is to lose everything over and over again, to outlive love, memory, purpose. You were a spark that would not fade, but sooner or later, even eternity wearies. And perhaps that's all right, because the perfection of life is not that it continues, it's that it stops.